and each reveals a remarkably different aspect, the radiant energy of stars.
A curious monument exists in the small coastal town of Hendaye in southwestern France. The ordinary-looking monument stands at the corner of St. Vincent's Church, and if you weren't looking for it, you wouldn't notice it. However, this monument holds a secret message, one that contains a warning of catastrophe and the closing of the current age. It is, as the alchemist and author Vincent Bridges called it, a true monument to the end of time. The famous alchemist Fulcanelli first wrote about this strange monument in his pivotal work, The Mystery of the Cathedrals, where he describes the monument as telling a story about a completion of a cycle. On the eastern-facing side, we see an image of a star. Next, on the southern face, an image of a moon can be seen, and on the western face, an angry-looking sun, followed by 4 A's aligned and separated by a cross on the northern-facing side. What we have is essentially a story that depicts various cataclysms that have occurred throughout the ages. At the start of each age, humanity exists in darkness for a time and eventually comes to a place where the illuminations of spirit have caused significant advancement of the third density being. This entrance into the beginnings of illumination inevitably lead to humanity becoming distracted by shadows. Humanity, being enamored by the shadows cast by the illuminations of the spirit, begin to get lost in the chimeras of the mind. They chose to erect a world devoid of spirit and began to attract the attention of the potentiator in order to provide the necessary illumination needed to help them find their way out of the dark. After each age, the potentiator's action caused humanity to once again be thrust into darkness, necessitating a rebirth. However, there is hope to be found in the spirit, or the sun behind the sun, and through following the wisdom of the spirit, humanity can avoid catastrophe and escape the cycle of death and rebirth, entering a new age. The cross of Hendaye indicates that this has occurred before, and we are approaching the end of a cycle. It provides a warning for humanity, encoded in symbolic imagery of an approaching time of great catastrophe. This monument is a testament to the shift of the ages, a time when humanity can either break out of the cycle of rebirth or stay within it. Wanderers have a unique role during this time to help ease this transition and allow more time for more people to make a choice. To understand these catastrophe cycles, we must first begin with our logos, the sun. The sun can be seen as a type of broadcast station. All creative energy in our solar system originates from the sun. The sun is constantly broadcasting various frequencies at all times in response to the needs of the various planets within its care. The sun ushers forth, from time to time, huge bursts of energy which serve as great catalysts of change. These are known as solar flares and coronal mass ejections. Solar flares vary in intensity, with the most extreme class being highly disruptive to electronics. In 1860, a huge solar flare, known as the Averting event, was so powerful, telegraph operators reported wires sparking. One can only imagine what a similar flare could do to our modern electrical way of life. Manka, a group consciousness channeled by various Law of One channeling circles, describes these solar flares in CMEs metaphorically as a hormone release. A hormone is a chemical message which, when released, signals to the body when and where to do something. So too it appears that the release of energy from the sun signals to various bodies within our solar system to do something. Interestingly, a hormone is released only when a stimuli is applied to the body. For example, the hormone melatonin is released when the body is resting and ready to sleep, the external stimuli being darkness. Growth hormones are timed to release precisely when the body reaches a certain age. What then is the stimuli that invokes the release of energy from the sun. The bodies themselves must signal to the sun the need for such energy. We have on Earth a situation where there is a sharp disconnect between our consciousness and the environmental consciousness. In other words, our experience of reality is in sharp contrast to the needs of the Earth and the emerging fourth density environment. Hatan, an entity channeled by various channeling groups, says regarding cataclysms in consciousness, these cataclysms are simply evidence that the personal growth of those who dwell upon the planet have not kept pace with the natural environment's growth. Therefore, the entry into the next vibration has become difficult, making it necessary for the inharmony between consciousness and environmental consciousness to be alleviated by catastrophes such as the one you are experiencing. This passage is suggesting that the inhabitants of a planet and the planet itself have a consciousness which, while being distinct, also directly affects the other. All of our thinking, our energy, our thoughts, and our actions directly affect how healthy the planet is, and in response to the needs of the planet, the sun sends healing energy in order to help alleviate disharmony. Depending on the amount of disharmony present, reflects the intensity of the cataclysms that may result. The stronger the block, the stronger the catalyst needed to dislodge it. Cataclysms, it seems, vary in intensity based on the need for catalyst. The root word of catalyst is from the Greek words kata, or down, and luin, which means loosen. Cataclysm has its origin in Greek and essentially means to wash clean. If energy needs to be loosened, a catalyst will appear to provide the necessary means to wash clean and clear the energy. Catalyst provides experience, and the experience being offered has the effect of loosening blocked energy. Energy blocked, often due to previously unprocessed catalysts. What this means is that unprocessed, species-wide catalysts will be increasingly loosened and then brought out into the daylight, which is why you are seeing more polarization, more intense conflict, etc. Things that need healing are being brought out from the collective unconscious and into the light of the day. Since humanity is struggling to process the intense catalyst present in its collective unconscious, the natural birth of the fourth density Earth is being made difficult. In the Law of One material, Ra and other channel groups make continuous reference to a difficult birthing process, referring to the disconnect between the inhabitants of the planet and the emerging fourth density environment. Ho says, the transition into the fourth density is occurring with some difficulty in the birthing process, shall we say. And Ra mentions, in the event of mixed harvest, there is nearly always disharmony, and, therefore, added catalysts in the form of your so-called Earth changes. Ra also adds some additional insight into Earth experiencing birthing pains. In your space-time, you and your peoples are the parents of that which is in the womb. The Earth, as you call it, is ready to be born, and the delivery is not going smoothly. When this entity has become born, it will be instinct, with the social memory complex of its parents, which have become fourth density positive. In this density, there is a broader view. Ra also describes the role of the sun in this process. You may begin to see your relationship to the Logos or Sun with which you are most intimately associated. This is not the relationship of parent to child, but of creator, that is Logos, to creator, that is mind-body-spirit complex as Logos. When this realization occurs, you may then widen the field of eyeshot, if you will, infinitely recognizing parts of the Logos throughout the one infinite creation, and feeling, with the roots of mind informing the intuition, the parents aiding their planets and evolution in reaches vast and unknown in the creation. For this process occurs many, many times in the evolution of creation as a whole. To recap, cataclysms, like catalysts, are the result of attempts at dislodging stuck energy. Earth is currently experiencing birthing pains in regards to it becoming a fourth density planet. The birthing pains are the result of our own disharmonies, both within ourselves and within groups. Perhaps the best way to prevent cataclysms would be to encourage harmony wherever you are and with whomever you're with. Quo says on this point, each time an entity is able to increase the level of spontaneous, harmonious response to a difficult situation, there is a lightening of the vibrations of this planetary influence that aids the entity that is the planet itself, as it also makes its transition into that density of love which now beckons. In a different channeling session, a speaker asked Quo if there is some metaphysical means to avert cataclysms. Quo responds, "We might suggest that this is indeed correct, and is that formative feature of consciousness which is manifested within your illusion as events which occur in time and space." The language they use, formative feature of consciousness, is interesting. Formative suggests that consciousness can indeed mold or shape events. We know that thought attracts experiences at the individual level. However, it also appears that collective thought attracts collective experiences. Collectively, we determine the severity of the catalyst and ultimately any cataclysms that occur. So what is the Wanderer's role then in helping to avert cataclysmic events? To understand this, we must refer to the time lateral that Quo speaks about. The time lateral concept is one of the most intriguing concepts in the Law of One channelings. According to Quo, some time ago, the Earth was separated out from the main track of time due to too much interference from outside forces. Quo says, "The train of yellow ray, third density Earth has been shunted into a lateral experience by the determined and repeated actions of what this instrument would call the sons of light and the sons of darkness, or those who promote peace and joy, and those who promote war and suffering. In the outer sense, these few entities have again and again, upon other planets and upon this one, in many different societies, chosen the ways of war, and chosen them for reasons unknown to themselves, being manipulated by those far cleverer than they, who use the suffering and the pain of third density and its endless repetition of war as food. The creation of such a shunt or rail for an alternate track along space-time within your local sector, which you call your solar system, was created for the same kind of reason that a railroad switching station would employ shunts or lateral track systems, to hold trains that have, for one reason or another, lost their initial engine." Quo also says, "It has been so that your planet has included a nugatory, useless pattern so many times that its entire society has been quarantined and put to one side of, shall we say, the usual timeline. It is as if time itself has been suspended for these entities, while they are moving through this pattern again and again. There is also mention of a singular error which we've consistently made, which has caused us to be unable to achieve graduation. In attempting to graduate from third density to fourth, this planetary sphere has so often repeated a singular error that has been unable to achieve a complete planetary graduation in a long time, much longer than has been experienced by most planetary spheres. The train of planet Earth's people has sort of gone off a sidetrack until it can bring itself together in love. Instead, repeatedly, it has brought itself together in fear. Ra makes mention of third density lasting for approximately 75,000 years. During this master cycle, there are 3 minor cycles of 25,000 years. Interestingly, geologists have been able to map out various cataclysms, which appear in regular intervals in the geologic record. The cataclysms appear around magnetic excursion events, which is a temporary reorientation of the poles of the planet, the result of which significantly weakens the magnetic field on Earth and could have dramatic consequences to life on the planet. The last magnetic excursion is known as the Gothenburg event, and it occurred approximately 12,000 to 13,000 years ago. Another event, known as the Lake Mungo event, was somewhere between 21,000 and 25,000 years ago, and others such as the Mono Lake event was 31,000 to 37,000 years ago. The La Champ event was 41,000 to 48,000 years ago. The Toba eruption was about 72,000 years ago. As we can see, from a period starting around 72,000 or so years ago, we have various cataclysms occurring every 12,000 or so years to varying degrees of intensity. To get more detailed into this topic would be too much for this video, and for that, I recommend the work of catastrophist Ben Davidson in his YouTube channel, Suspicious Observers. He presents the hypothesis that the Sun periodically micronovas, that is, the solar system travels through a magnetic current sheet traveling from the galactic center which brings with it dust that enters our solar system. When enough of this dust blankets the sun, it causes a small micronova. The evidence of this possibility occurring is strong, and perhaps this is the double catastrophe that Fulcanelli and others spoke about that is being depicted on the Hendaye monument. In any case, the geological record shows a similar pattern to what Ra spoke about regarding the 25,000-year cycles. Perhaps at the close of these cycles, a catastrophe occurs that resets the system. Cyclical catastrophes do appear to be a regular occurrence on Earth. The question remains, is their severity tied to the level of harmony of the living humans at the time? It seems the answer to this question is yes. We have a situation where we've been put into a time lateral in order to minimize influence by outsiders and extend our timetable in order to learn how to harmonize with each other as best as possible. As a collective, it seems we have a habit of continuously engaging in war, violence, and other hostile acts. We often find ourselves having an us versus them mentality, and separation and otherizing appear to be the norm in many cases. And we are approaching the end of the time allotted for the lateral to exist, and this is attracting the attention of various forces, both positive and negative. The positive wants the time lateral to merge back to the main track, while the negative sees an opportunity to keep it separated. Quo explains the severity of the situation. For if entities such as your group are unable to clear the population of your planet from this lateral, there are ways in which the negatively oriented entities have every hope of keeping the time lateral viable. It would no longer be attached to the main track. That opportunity shall soon be closed. With this statement, Quo makes clear the ultimate purpose for the influx of wanderers at this time, to prevent the time lateral from splintering off permanently by maximizing the number of harvestable individuals. In referring to the important work that wanderers have in healing the planet and opening up a bridge between this world and the main track, Quo says, the energies of a living third density system have been encouraged to continue for the approximate 10 to 12 years further that the shunt can stay physically open in terms of space-time. This is to say that by the energies of unconditional love, which are generated by the prayers, meditations, and visualizations of groups such as this one, the bridge or reconnection point has been maintained for those who would wish to awaken and make their choice of polarity by the date which has been set as the last possible date to keep this connection point open. The date which has been set as the last possible date to keep this connection open appears to constantly be in flux. There is likely not an exact end date. In some channelings, it was said that the time lateral was due to end in 1998 with the pole shift. In 2012, a date long considered a sort of end date produced nothing of obvious significance. Of note in 2012, however, is a coronal mass ejection that did erupt from the sun that year and missed Earth by 9 days. If it had hit Earth, it would have had devastating consequences for the electric grid, essentially making electronics unusable for potentially several years. There are many such examples of near misses and close calls. According to Quo, this is in large part due to the efforts of groups such as the LL Research Group in spreading information. People, being informed, are starting to grow up, so to speak, and harmonize, which prevents the necessity of harsher catalysts. Quo mentions about the reason for wanderers coming to the planet was to help minimize the effect of Earth changes. One reason that wanderers first came to this particular planetary sphere was to transmute the infinite love and light of the one Creator through their physical and metaphysical instrument and out into the Earth plane, creating a net of light that would alleviate and ameliorate the tectonic distress which the Earth is now experiencing. Quo also mentions that the plan is working. It is our opinion that this plan, though working imperfectly, has reached a critical mass sufficient to enable your planet to suffer many smaller catastrophes that allow the majority of those upon your planet to continue to enjoy the illusion. In a previous session, Ra also makes mention of the ameliorating effects of wanderers regarding the severity of catastrophes. Ra says, it was the aim of wanderers to serve the entities of this planet in whatever way was requested, and it was also the aim of wanderers that their vibratory patterns might lighten the planetary vibration as a whole, thus ameliorating the effects of planetary disharmony. This brings us back to the question, what is the wanderer's role in averting cataclysmic events? Recall that a wanderer is an individual who willingly chooses to incarnate into a third density body, even though they have reached an evolution where they no longer need to learn the lessons contained within third density. It's not that those who are wanderers are somehow more evolved or better. It's simply that they've graduated already, and therefore it is equivalent to someone repeating a grade in school, even though you had passed it. Of course, as incarnate 3D beings, wanderers have the exact same fallibilities as anyone else, and thereby must awaken to their potential through the processing of various catalysts. This is the important job of wanderers, to awaken to their potential. By doing so, you are keeping the bridge between worlds open, giving more opportunity for the people of this planet to harmonize. It's important to remember that nothing at all is required of you except to remove the rocks and thorns that block the heart. You do not need to do anything except work on removing blocks that prevent the love and the light of the Infinite One to move through you and out into this world. It's the healing love of the One that moves through us, like an antenna broadcasting a frequency, and this frequency is what helps others. It is the intent of those small group of negative individuals to close the bridge completely, and if you look around you, you can easily see that almost everything is used to keep you silent, keep you confused, and keep you at a frequency more easily controlled. From the food we eat, the media we consume, the entertainment we seek, and the fear we are fed. To remain asleep aids them. To remain closed off aids them. To live in fear aids them. For too long, humanity has fallen into the trap of being misguided, of being led by those with negative intentions, of doing things against our highest nature. This time, we have a chance to make a different choice, to stand up, guided by the One, unafraid and with our eyes and ears open. Wanderers, this is your mission. This is why you are here. The only thing that truly matters is to awaken to your potential. The details on how you do this are yours and yours alone. The work of your lifetime is to unblock the heart and allow the love of the One to move through you. To do this is the highest service you can possibly offer. It's really the only service. To align your will with that of the One Infinite and to be a beacon of light for all. The monument to the end of time at Hendaye shows us a reminder of the potential for catastrophe due to the repeated disharmony of humanity. Rather than succumbing to fear like we have in the past, we now have a real chance to truly make a different choice. We must, with eyes fully open, stand with the light of the One Infinite and awaken to our full potential as beacons of the light of the One Infinite.